So let's talk about the foundational thinking technique that you must use in chess. So how to think. So there are more advanced techniques that exist out there, but let's start with the foundational one that you must master to go up to the 2000 plus ranking. So in the first place, you find aggressive moves first, and then you anticipate your opponent's replies. It's a very simple two-step process. Let's just look at the first one here and in more detail. So we just follow this kind of schematic, the schema here. So in the first place, we look for checks at the most forceful moves. We look at forceful moves first, captures with your second most forceful moves, and moves which make aggressive contact or threats. These are the third most aggressive moves, but of course it depends on the position. You might find that in some position captures are the most forceful, or moves which make aggressive contact are the most forceful. So once you've identified these moves, then we may go into analysis and calculation, which we look at the most forceful continuations first, right? Chess is way too many variations to consider all of them, right? So we have to look at the most forceful continuations, right? This will give us more precise analysis, right? Rather than considering everything, we'll just wear ourselves out. So using this very basic schema, you can basically just train it by looking at analysis of your games, by playing games against computers, or by analyzing games by grandmasters. So if you want to do this for your opponents as well, right? If we look at step 2 here, anticipate your opponent's replies. And here, this is a famous game in the World Cup between Episenko and Wei Yi. Now, Wei Yi played 93, and Episenko replied here with, I believe, F6. The idea here was to prevent a 95 check. However, if Episenko looked at all the possibilities here, all the captures by the opponent as well, he might have anticipated knight takes on g7. So f6 was played, and then knight takes on g7. So Episenko just dropped a piece. If he had trained this very simple method, of course he has trained this, he just slipped up here. He would have just recognized that this rook will be taken. So just by looking at simple captures here, we can simply avoid many blunders, or even checks, or even moves with aggressive contact. You can simply avoid many blunders just by following this very simple procedure. So what if there are no aggressive moves? What if there are no adequate aggressive moves that we can play? So here we just play moves which either improve our position or hamper the improvements of our opponent's position. So we develop our pieces, so improve the piece which is on its starting square or is poorly placed. So you just want to make sure it improves in mobility and has more activity. So for example, and then we centralize our pieces, right? We move our pieces forward, or we drive our opponent's pieces back. So if an opponent's piece is within our territory, we just drive it back, right? Remember, the pieces gain an activity as they advance forward. So by pushing it backwards, we decrease our opponent's activity. And in a way, we are increasing our own activity. So we just improve our position if adequate aggressive moves do not exist. So let's talk about spatial relations. So where are spatial relations? So here, just by anticipating where our pieces are, and understanding where our opponent's pieces are, we can also prevent blunders. So, for example, when a piece moves along a file, it opens up a rank and 2 diagonals, right? Just by scanning through this with our eyes, we can also help prevent our blunders, right? So in some cases, I might not be able to anticipate a bishop, say here. So, for example, if I'm going to move this pawn up, right, this rank is open, this diagonal is open, and this diagonal is open. So by just noticing this diagonal, we can perhaps spot a bishop that was here and prevent just an oversight or blunder. So this simple spatial relations can help us do that sometimes when we really need to do a blunder check and where it counts the most. So in the same way here, what if we move along a rank? So along a rank, we'll just open a file here, and we move to a new file, and then 2 new diagonals. So this diagonal here, and we left this diagonal here and this file here. So that's when we move across a longer rank rather. So we move along the diagonal, and this time we just we leave a file, we leave a rank, and we leave 1 diagonal. And we enter a new file, a new rank, a new diagonal. So file, rank, diagonal, and we enter a new file, rank, diagonal. So keep these spatial relations in mind. So what happens when we move along a file? What happens when we move along a rank? What happens when we move along a diagonal, right? Certainly this doesn't apply to knights. It applies to your linear pieces, your bishop, rook, and queen. So just keep that in mind. It can help prevent blunders. It can also help improve visualization when you're calculating very deeply. And also just some tips on how to calculate. So physical boards can create visual bias. Sometimes you may not be able to see the pieces correctly because of the present pieces on the board. So some elite players might close their eyes and try to see the position on their heads. And I encourage you to do this, especially when you can actually train this when you are solving tactical puzzles. So always snap back to the real position to anchor your mental image. So training methods. So cover diagrams, visualize, reveal. You can also just read chess books without seeing the board. and then setting up the board based on the moves that were played. Or you could just look at PNGs, imagine the score sheet before the moves are played, and see if you can sort of verify that the position that you see in your head is the same as the position that you saw when you closed your eyes. So this is very effective. I've seen Praggnanandhaa also do this. So how to train this thinking system. So play games against strong computer programs. The idea here is not to win, right? It's not to win. So how to identify aggressive moves by you and your opponent, and to avoid blunders. So when solving tactical puzzles, look away from the board, right? We are training visualization here. And also when we're training tactical puzzles, even when we see the solution, we do not rush. We consider each aggressive move individually. We have to practice the mechanics of this kind of thinking, right? This kind of schema here. We have to practice the mechanics. We must not skip any steps, right? So this is the key, right? It's like learning how to play a keyboard. You must practice and work through all of these steps mechanically, right? To master the mechanics. That's more important than just, well, I can find the solution instantly. So slow down your thinking and try to train this and be patient, right? Be patient, right? This is the key, and just move on and train gradually and improve. So this here is my profile, and if you look here, this is a very old profile here. It's about 11 years old. I opened it back in, way back in the day. And if you take a look here, at some point I started just training this kind of system, and my rating really rose really fast, just avoiding blunders and just training the system without necessarily knowing a lot of opening theory. And of course here I just improved up to 2565. Of course I had to know some theory to come to this point, so I had to know some opening positions and the resultant endgames. And of course my puzzle rating here is relatively decent just by using the techniques outlined. And of course I'm also selling this Chess Essentials strategy and tactics and theory. It's kind of knowledge here. So this will include this lesson and other lessons. So this is how you learn how to evaluate, assess positions, like learn theoretical endgames, essential theoretical endgames, learn about important middle game positions, combinations, learn basic classical themes, learn about to train and gain proficiency, core knowledge. To set you on the path to mastery, and this is recommended for players from 200 to 2200, perhaps even more, right? Some players with 2200 might still have gaps in their knowledge. And of course, just for focusing solely on training the system, I have this very practical step-by-step approach course here. I think it runs for about 3 hours, and it's separated into days. We just solve a few puzzles and we work through our thinking system very mechanically. It's a very handheld process. So this will also help you, and typically cheaper than a course on core knowledge.